Have you ever stopped and asked yourself, what if this moment of anger or frustration decides the rest of your life? My brother, my sister, before you take a step that cannot be undone, pause it, take a deep breath, and truly think. Marriage is not just a contract, it is a sacred trust, a journey meant to challenge us, to grow us, and to teach us patience and empathy. Too often, in moments of pain, we forget the promises we made, not just to each other, but to ourselves, to our families, and to God. We forget that every harsh word, every hurtful act, every quick decision leaves marks far beyond the two hearts involved. So today, I want you to reflect with me. Before breaking a bond that took years to build, before ending a story that has yet to finish, before you let go of something that might yet be saved, let us explore together the weight, the beauty, and the responsibility of holding on to what truly matters. When we speak of marriage, my brother, my sister, we are not speaking merely of a social contract or a fleeting arrangement between two people. Marriage is a sacred bond, one that carries within it a weight far greater than we often realize in the moments of anger or despair. It is a covenant that binds two souls together, a promise made not only in the presence of one another, but also before family, friends, and most importantly, before God. It is a commitment that asks of us patience when life grows difficult, understanding when misunderstandings arise, and forgiveness when imperfections inevitably show themselves. Too often we think of commitment as something that only matters in moments of joy, when the world seems bright and everything is easy. But true commitment is measured in the moments when challenges test us, when emotions run high, and when the temptations to give up whisper in our ears. A marriage is not a perfect picture. It is a work in progress, a journey that demands consistency, devotion, and effort every single day. When we made our vows, we promised to hold on through thick and thin, to protect the bond we were entrusted with, and to nurture it even when circumstances threatened to tear it apart. This promise is not empty. It carries consequences and responsibilities. It is a reminder that what we hold in our hands is fragile, precious, and irreplaceable. Many times, in the heat of arguments or the sting of disappointment, we forget the magnitude of that commitment. We forget the nights spent dreaming together, the sacrifices made, and the laughter shared. We overlook the ways our spouse has stood by us in moments of weakness or despair. To break a marriage lightly is to disregard a treasure that was never meant to be taken for granted. Commitment asks us to look beyond ourselves, to see the relationship as a living, breathing entity that requires care, attention, and respect. It asks us to resist the temptation to act impulsively and instead to pause, reflect, and seek understanding. Holding on to a marriage is not a burden, but a profound opportunity, an opportunity to cultivate love, patience, and character, to grow spiritually and emotionally alongside the one we chose to share our life with, and to honor the trust and promise that brought us together. My brother, my sister, life often moves so quickly that we forget the value of pausing, of stopping for just a moment to truly think before we act. In marriage, this pause can mean the difference between a decision that heals and one that wounds permanently. When emotions run high, when frustration or disappointment overwhelms us, our minds often rush to conclusions, and our hearts demand immediate relief. But in these moments, the power of reflection becomes our greatest ally. To reflect means to step back, to look at the situation from a wider perspective, and to ask ourselves whether the choices we are about to make will bring lasting peace or enduring regret. It means considering not only our own feelings, but also the feelings of the person we vowed to love and cherish. Reflection asks us to remember why we started this journey together, to recall the love, the dreams, and the shared experiences that have shaped our bond. It encourages us to ask hard questions. Are we reacting out of anger, pride, or impatience? Are we allowing temporary pain to dictate permanent decisions? Too often, in the heat of conflict, we fail to see the bigger picture. We focus on the immediate discomfort rather than the lifelong partnership we have invested in. Reflection gives us the space to breathe, to gain clarity, and to allow reason to guide our hearts. It helps us distinguish between problems that can be resolved with patience, understanding, and dialogue, and issues that may feel insurmountable only because we are looking at them from a narrow, emotional lens. It is in these quiet, thoughtful moments that wisdom arises, the wisdom to forgive, to listen, to compromise, and to rebuild. The power of reflection does not promise that challenges will disappear, but it assures us that we are less likely to make hasty decisions that leave scars not only on our relationship but on our own hearts as well. When we cultivate the habit of reflecting before reacting, we honor the sacredness of marriage and give ourselves the chance to approach difficulties with grace, empathy, and clarity. It is in these pauses, these conscious moments of thought and introspection, that we often find the solutions we overlooked, the understanding we missed, and the strength to hold on when giving up seems easier. My brother, my sister, marriage is not built on grand gestures alone, but on the quiet, steady practice of understanding one another. Communication is the lifeline of any relationship, and in marriage it is nothing short of sacred. It is the bridge that connects two hearts, the tool that allows us to express love, disappointment, hope, and forgiveness. Too often, when conflict arises, we forget the power of words and allow silence or harsh speech to create walls between us. We assume that our spouse knows how we feel, that they understand our pain without explanation, or worse, we speak in ways that wound rather than heal. True communication requires patience. It asks us to listen without judgment, to hear not just the words being said, but the emotions beneath them. It calls us to put aside pride, defensiveness, and the rush to be right, and instead to focus on understanding. Patience in communication is the art of allowing space for mistakes, for emotions to settle, and for hearts to open gradually. It is the ability to pause before responding, to choose words that build rather than destroy, and to acknowledge the humanity in the one we vowed to love. Many marriages falter not because love is absent, but because communication fails, because the simple act of speaking kindly, listening fully, and being present is neglected. When we cultivate patience, we learn that disagreements are not signs of failure, but opportunities for growth, that misunderstandings can be bridges rather than barriers, and that even the deepest wounds can be healed with consistent, thoughtful dialogue. This patience extends beyond words. It is patience in action, patience in giving space for emotions to settle, patience in working through difficulties step by step, and patience in allowing the relationship to evolve and strengthen over time. Marriage is a lifelong classroom, and the lessons of listening, speaking gently, and approaching each conflict with empathy are among the most valuable. When we practice true communication with patience, we honor not only our spouse, but the commitment we made, and we create a space where love can flourish even amidst challenges. It is through this delicate balance of speaking, listening, and waiting with care that we discover the depth of connection, the resilience of partnership, and the power of love that grows stronger with every thoughtful exchange. My brother, my sister, when we think about marriage, we often see it as a private matter between two individuals, a bond that exists solely within the walls of the home. But the truth is, the effects of a marriage stretch far beyond the two hearts involved. Every decision we make reverberates through the lives of children, families, friends, and even the community around us. When a marriage is strained or broken, it is not just the couple who bear the weight of that pain. Children feel the confusion and insecurity of fractured love. Parents experience the sorrow of watching their children hurt, and friends who care deeply can feel the tension and strain as well. Children, in particular, carry these experiences into their own understanding of relationships, learning lessons about love, trust, and commitment from the examples they witness. A decision made in haste, a word spoken in anger, or an action driven by frustration can leave impressions that last far longer than we realize. This is why it is so important to pause and consider the wider impact of our choices. Marriage is never just about personal happiness in the moment. It is about the environment we create, the legacy of love or pain that we leave for those who look up to us. When we approach conflicts with thoughtfulness, with the intent to resolve rather than escape, we are not only preserving our own relationship, but we are protecting the emotional and spiritual well-being of others. Every act of patience, forgiveness, and understanding sends ripples outward, creating a culture of empathy and respect. Likewise, every act of haste, resentment, or abandonment can create ripples of hurt that extend far beyond what we initially imagined. By recognizing the broader consequences of our decisions, we cultivate a sense of responsibility that transcends personal desires. We remind ourselves that marriage is a shared responsibility, a commitment that touches lives far beyond the couple alone. In moments of difficulty, it becomes essential to ask ourselves how our choices will affect those who love us, those who depend on us, and those who look to us as examples of patience, loyalty, and resilience. When we keep in mind the profound effect of our actions, we are guided toward thoughtful decisions, toward compassion, and toward preserving a bond whose value extends far beyond our own immediate comfort. My brother, my sister, even in the darkest moments of marriage, there is always hope. It is easy to believe that when pain feels too heavy, when disappointment seems too deep, or when misunderstandings pile up, the only way forward is separation. But true strength lies in remembering that relationships, like human hearts, have an incredible capacity to heal. Marriage is not meant to be perfect, but it is meant to endure, to grow stronger through trials, and to transform pain into deeper understanding. The possibility of healing begins with faith. Faith in the love that brought you together, faith in the commitment you made, and faith in the power of patience and effort. It also begins with self-reflection, with the willingness to acknowledge one's own mistakes, to seek forgiveness, and to extend forgiveness in return. Healing does not erase the challenges, but it allows couples to confront them with compassion rather than bitterness. It encourages dialogue instead of silence, understanding instead of judgment, and reconciliation instead of resentment. My brother, my sister, it is remarkable how many marriages that seemed irreparable have been restored through intentional effort, prayer, and heartfelt communication. When both partners choose to fight for their bond, to nurture it with care and consistency, they often discover a love that is deeper, more resilient, and more fulfilling than before. Healing is not instantaneous, it is a gradual process that requires humility, courage, and persistence. It asks that we look beyond immediate gratification and instead focus on the long-term well-being of the relationship, recognizing that every effort made in sincerity plants seeds of restoration. In this process, we learn to appreciate each other anew, to value the lessons learned from conflict, and to rebuild trust and intimacy on a firmer foundation. Even when mistakes have been made or wounds have formed, there is always a path forward if both hearts are willing. The beauty of hope is that it reminds us that no matter how broken or challenging a marriage may seem, there is room for redemption, for growth, and for renewed connection. By embracing the possibility of healing, couples are empowered to move beyond despair, to transform struggle into strength, and to cultivate a love that is resilient, compassionate, and enduring.